Hello, this is Magenta Pixie
and Jessica Woods,
and we have come together again to have a conversation. We have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but we thought you might like to listen in. So you were saying you channel energy.
yes,
But you've been asking for clarification on what that energy is, perhaps the personification of the energy, like an ascended master or an ET.
yes.
What I'm getting for you from the 9 is, you know, like when we log on to the computer and we log on to the internet and we can go on one website, check our emails, go on a shopping website, go over to watch videos, or whatever we do, we're linked to the whole World Wide Web, but we don't go on all the websites. So that's what it's like within that field, I guess. And you are like a direct link to that field. It isn't always necessary for you to know where you are, because you are connected to source and to light. You are having different entities or different aspects of that consciousness field coming forward through you. So they
like
kind
like the way you put that, actually, because it's nice, isn't it, to think of it being like the internet. That's a really good way of looking at it. So that's how it feels right. That's how I just would describe it as well. But I think
Absolutely.
that's a really nice way of
And the
putting
other
it,
metaphor is like
everything.
a brain. The brain, I mean, I'm not really into neuroscience, I haven't done much study, but the brain is like a massive network of all these connected sort of threads that light up and communicate. So they're all acting individually, and they're all acting as one whole.
Pathways, and whichever fires off because you put your attention into that area. So it's exactly the same, isn't it?
So that's like the internet, that mirrors it. The cyber world kind of mirrors, it's like one great big cyber brain. And what we have in the cosmic level, the consciousness field, is the same thing.
Absolutely.
And it is the brain, and our brain is like a mirror image of it. So it doesn't matter on one level what aspect of energy is coming through you, because even when they present as an ascended master, that is only a personification of part of that. And I think what you're doing is you are communicating with a wide range of that consciousness field at the same time. So basically you've got a computer and you have quite a large hard drive, and you've got 62 or 100 different websites on your computer at the same time, and that's why you're not getting a personification, because the ascended master is more than an ascended master. They all are. The extraterrestrials are a huge range of different vibrations. The angelic realm is the same thing.
Yes, it is.
So do you feel connected to that web right now?
Yes, I guess it's I'm always connected to it. It's whether I if I was on
choose
the
to log on or
laptop,
not.
I'd say, right, shall I log on?
Absolutely.
So,
and you can't log on all the time, because you can't go driving around the road, or like, sometimes it happens when I'm driving, but you know, walking around the shops, if you're constantly logged on and logged into the consciousness field, it's like, you know, I don't know if our human brains can take a 24/7 logging on situation.
Well, a lot of people used to, will ask me that. They say, oh, how do you, are you like it all the time? And I say, I used to be, very much
when
so.
you awaken at the beginning,
very many
and you have to
years
learn
ago.
how to shut it down. And one of the ways to learn how to shut it down is to not be able to shut it down. Same here. And I really freaked people out back then, and I really apologise to all of those people. I had a friend say to me, this friend is quite not into that really. She finds it interesting, but it isn't really her. And when I was like that, I really annoyed her a lot, and she found me just like I just floated off and gone. And then when I kind of came back to this, she said to me, do you know what, you've gone like you were 20 years ago, but She said, you are different. She said, because you are yourself as well.
Yeah.
It's like last time you lost your real self.
Yeah.
And now you've gone all crazy,
Yeah.
but you're like with your real self as well. Does that make sense?
Yes,
And I said, yeah, that's a great compliment. Thank you. You're telling me I'm grounded. Thank you. You know,
Yeah.
and this is my friend who's not got any spiritual kind of leaning. So that's the same thing.
I think it's the understanding that comes with it, because I remember years and years ago, I met up with this lady, and she said to me, whoa, you've got, you're like an oven, you know, those oven pressure cookers, you're about to explode unless you get this out. And I said, oh, I don't quite know what you mean. She said, well, you've got so much stuff, you've got to get it out. And it was like, okay. And she was a spiritual teacher. Now, I didn't know her for long in my life, but she enabled me to open that doorway and to start to use some of the tools and skills, I guess, that, you know, I have, that I use today, basically. And she was kind of like the first one who ever made it possible. And I think we all get to a point where we're more spiritually aware, or we know that we know more, but we don't know what to do with it. And I think that's pretty much what's happening on a rapid pace now, isn't it, with people that we're calling it awakening or ascension, ascending, and coming into that. So I remember my days back then with her, and she said to me, because I knew things, but I didn't know how I knew them, and there was all sorts going on. So I feel what you were saying there about you being authentic, the more authentic that you come, which is part of that process that happens over a period of time, whether it's fast or slow, it's kind of irrelevant, but it's being able to just express it, isn't it? And I think that's it. So it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. What you were saying about the pressure cooker, that makes sense, and I kind of liken it to, women would understand this one who've ever breastfed. If you are breastfeeding your baby and you don't feed, you need to release and have that relief of feeding. Absolutely. So when baby's hungry, like, oh good, baby's woken up, I can feed baby now. And it's the same thing when you have that creativity, or whatever level it may be on. It could simply be a musician that's got a head full of music and needs to release it as a channel. Then you are in touch with that consciousness field and the aspects of it, and there are messages that you are getting that need to come out. And sometimes the personifications within the consciousness field can be oblivious in a way to the human realm, because they learn as much as we do. That we're equal, they're not above us, we're learning together. And sometimes, so you have to take control with this, and you have to say, okay, now is the time to log on, now is the time to work, and even perhaps be choosy about the messages you bring forward. And as you create that connection with that consciousness field, or that archetype, that aspect that you're working with, then it's like any relationship. You build a relationship with your guides, if you like. If you want to use the word guides, I often use that word, but sometimes people will hear the word guides, they'll hear the word channeling, and they switch off because they think, I'm not there, I don't want the channeling, I don't want the guides, I don't want the ascended masters. So what I would like to do, and I know you feel the same, is reach a wider group of people who perhaps can resonate with different words, like, you know, go down the scientific route. It is scientifically a fact, and I know that this hasn't been proven, but what I am told from the night, that this is how it is. Our bodies have the ability to communicate with that consciousness field. We do it through our cells, our skin, our blood, the pineal gland within the brain, and we learn to work with that energy. And it can be done in a different way. With every single person, it's completely unique how they work. And I feel that you and I are working in more than one way so that we can help others, because this is a global consciousness shift, as you are saying. It isn't just something that's happening to a select few. It's happening to the everyday person in the street. It's happening to people in the political arena. It's happening to people in every walk of life. It's global, and this year people who are working as way showers, and that can be in any capacity. They don't have to be spiritual or religious. They could be an atheist, you know. They're still working in that way. They're still connected to the consciousness field. It's like 2012 is the year when the awakening actually occurs on a much larger scale. I mean, it's happening now.
Yeah.
It's happening now, today, this very minute.
It's being authentic, isn't it? I think that really is the one word that summarises all of it from what you're saying as well. It's just being authentic. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she's kind of similar to us, into the same sort of things. And she was saying that, I met this accountant, and she said, he's so in alignment, but nothing spiritual at all. And I said, yeah, that's right, because he's living his truth. He's being authentically who he is, and doing it so well that's what she was seeing. That was the energy or the feel that she was getting from him. But she recognised within him, even though she was spiritual and he wasn't, in the, as you say, everybody's got their thing, no matter what they believe in or what they do. But she was recognising and feeling that his alignment, his truth, and that's lovely, isn't it? Because that's what we are all, as you say, waking up to.
That's right. And sometimes you can say, we're waking up, we're awakening, there's a massive global shift, there's a consciousness shift. Those words can actually shut people down. Some people are like, I don't resonate with those words, or they wouldn't even use the word resonate. So those people are being reached in their own way by the people that they need, because the consciousness field presents in so many different forms.
Absolutely, it's diverse.
And it wants to be seen. That's the thing. It wants to be seen. This is why when scientists do experiments, I don't know that much about this, but I know that the outcome of a scientific experiment, when they're trying to look at particles and waves and particles, and how a wave or is a particle a particle, and could a wave be a particle, and all that, which is not me.
They've got some really good experiments, haven't they? Yes.
They have. And a lot of this is discussed in there are lots of books out there that you can read this in. I mean, you know, that have been recently released, and often the outcome of the experiment will depend on the person that's viewing the experiment, or whether the experiment is even being viewed, because that consciousness field has intelligence. It's a living being. It's a living being with a massive neural network reaching out into everything. You know, some people call that God. That's great. That's what it is. But again, that's not really fully explaining it. You can go the science route and say, well, there's a scientific explanation for everything, and sometimes they can leave out the intelligence and the love and the humour and the livingness of it. I feel 2012 is the year when science and spirituality come together, and it's not a case of, well, this is religion and this is science and they're so opposing. You know, let's all have a great big argument and cause a war over who's right. 2012 and the energy of 2012 is about bringing that together and seeing that you really can't have one without the other. And I think there's that saying, science gives us the tool. No, science has all the answers and spirituality has the tools. Yes, that's so true.
There's a bit of the mystico-unio thing going on there, isn't there? The opposites.
Yeah.
Everything has to have its counterpart.
Yeah.
Or else we wouldn't have the balance, and
Absolutely.
we wouldn't know one from the other, and that's a whole.
Absolutely.
To talk about.
Absolutely, it is. We could talk forever. So, what's happening with someone who does what we do, channel, which again, as I said, it can be a misleading word to some, because they instantly think you allow a being to take over your body and speak through you. Well, yes, you do, but it could also be explained as you are bringing a raising of energy into your body. You are accessing a higher part of your consciousness. You are going into a waking state of hypnosis, or perhaps you are being deeply creative. It can be explained in so many ways.
Or you're using a part of your brain to access all that is.
That's right, and I feel that if your brain, when you're channeling, when you are connecting that way or meditating or whatever, was wired up to some kind of experimental tool that could measure your brain waves, you would be able to see a change in your brain.
Again, there has been a lot of, I haven't really read a lot about it either, but I know there's been a lot of experiments where they've, what have they done? They've asked people in one room of a building to focus on one particular thing and see if somebody on the other end of the building can actually pick up on that.
Yeah, that's right.
And I can't remember the results, but there's some really... do you know the ones I'm talking about? Have you read any of those?
I mean, I've read about these in... David Wilcock has recently released a book called The Source Field Investigations.
Oh, right, okay.
And I would recommend anyone who is looking for proof of the consciousness field, which he calls the source field. Yeah. This book had... I mean, I've only read a few chapters of it, I haven't read it all, but it's putting it all together quite nicely and tying it up. And if someone says to me, Magenta, prove it, whatever it is you're saying, I want proof, my answer would be, I don't have proof, and sometimes proof can be counterproductive, because searching for proof, you are looking for something outside of yourself when you look for proof, and the proof comes from within.
I was going to say, if it feels, what I would say to people is, if it feels right, then it's right.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't, it's not.
I haven't read an awful lot. Most of the information I have about this movement has come from my connection with the Nine. But they have encouraged me to research, and I have since, been reading a few things. What I would say is the nearest thing I've found as proof, and I know that there are probably many books or other means of proof, but David Wilcock's book, The Source Field Investigations, I would recommend. Anyone who wants to find out about these experiments that we're talking about that prove the existence of this field, yes, it's not proof, but it's the nearest thing I've found. So
as human beings, that's what we want, don't we? We all want proof. We all want to understand things and know things, and how does it work, and why does it work,
and that's absolutely
where does it all
natural,
come from, and
absolutely natural.
And that's who we are, because we are creators. When we begin to realise that we're creating it,
and we strive for those answers,
absolutely.
But then we have to learn to let go of our need for that proof, and because we can get frustrated, and when you're frustrated and then you're angry, this takes you away from that connection. So you let go and think, okay, I haven't got proof, I'll wait and I'll see what happens. And when you kind of let go and surrender to that, then it starts to happen. And the Nine call this the meaningful subjective experience, which is your own subjective experience, which is meaningful. Yes. Someone said to me yesterday, well, all subjective experiences are meaningful. And I said, well, they might be to you and me, but to a lot of people, they aren't even realising that they are in a subjective experience which could be meaningful. And I'm talking about coincidences, synchronicity, that is so unbelievable that you have no choice but to say, what's going on? Is there someone out there watching me? How can this happen? How is it possible that I was thinking this thought, and at the exact same time I got a phone call, and then I heard that on the television, and then I saw the number 1111 23 times, and that is a huge waking up as well. That's your subjective experience that's meaningful. That is your inner proof, and no book, no website, nothing can replace that. But it's nice to have things in the outside world that mirror your inner experience, such as books. So when it comes to reading about this movement, you haven't really read very much at all.
No, I deliberately haven't for quite some time. I didn't feel that I wanted to, and it's quite a weird thing, because I've always read. No matter what it's always been spiritual development, self-help, anything. When I was young, I was really very much into science fiction, fantasy, and all that sort of thing. So I've always read books, and for quite some time now, I felt no, I wasn't deliberately meant to. But I feel that's been part of my journey. That's been part of the reason for that journey. More specifically, is because I wasn't meant to read, listen, and be influenced by anything. It was about me trusting my own intuition and understanding what I was getting from myself, so that I couldn't relate it to what I've heard, read, or seen somewhere else. So that's really kind of a bit of a personal journey, really, that about trusting myself, in that I have the knowledge, that I can tap into it, and of course that's what I do now. I tap into that knowledge and get those answers. So I do know it. So
from the cosmic library.
Yeah, from the cosmic library. It's really lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know it. That's the thing. I mean, whatever's being written and created, because we're all creating it all the time, we've all got access to it, and we don't have to be, you know, as you said, into that field of spirituality or anything else. You know, it's just
you have to be open.
We've just got to be open and wanting to. It's that person wanting to know what it is that you want to know, whatever that is at the time, and then be willing to listen.
Yeah, because people can shut themselves down, or rather, they can close off that connection. The connection's always there. We wouldn't exist without it, because it's us, it's our consciousness. But I guess the metaphor is it flows through us, and we have these energy systems that we know as chakras, and that connection flows through that aspect of us, our energy body and our physical body. And some people can prevent flow sometimes in the way that they are living their life, or it could be a thought, it could be an action, it could be a series of actions. That again is part of the path, because when you block the flow, when you do come into flow, that teaches you the difference between the two. I know I've lived my life in the past where I've done things that have blocked my flow and blocked my connection, and I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know the answers to those things, but that's all been part of the learning. So there's no judgment in that. There's no like, well, you're shut down, you know, and I'm open. It isn't like that. It's everyone's in the same place on a different level of that same journey, and that's what we're here for. And people who do the things that we do, whether they're channels or healers or psychologists or whatever, we're here to help others to help themselves to flow. Like you said to me earlier, so say it again about the car. I can't drive your car for you. That's so good.
I can't remember what context we're talking about. What did you...
About how you can help someone, but you can't do it for them.
Yes, that's what you were saying. You know, you can do it. You can help people to a certain degree. And I said, well, it's a bit like I'd say to someone, well, if I jumped into your car, sorry, I can't remember what I said. If you jump into a car, I can't drive it for you.
You'll be sitting there in the drive.
You'll be sat there in the drive
I
for a long
can't drive
time.
your car for you. Exactly.
You have to do it yourself. There isn't anything in this life that you know. There's so many people that stop themselves from doing things.
Yeah.
We, as you said, we're all at different stages. We all do it. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, you can call it lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem. You can put it under a bracket and go and see someone for years and talk about it. But at the end of the day, only you can make those changes. Everybody else are the tools, if you like. I mean, one of my favourite things I always say is, you know, people say, well, you know, is it wrong to ask for help? And that's like saying, well, do I really want to go out, hunt the animal myself, shoot it down, skin it and cook it and eat it myself? No, I'd rather actually just go to a shop and buy it. Might sound a bit raw way of putting it, but that's what we are, aren't we? Essentially, we choose what we wish to experience and how and what we wish to do, but only at the end of the day are we, and only us, can take that step, whether it's to go and see someone to get some help, whether it's to you know, then get that help and then make the decision that that feels right and I'm going to do it. But it always has to be because it feels right. Absolutely. And then when it does, that's the time to make that change, make that movement, take that first step. So
that was just a really good metaphor. You have someone sitting in the drive and say, you know, I can teach you how to drive the car, tell you where the ignition is to turn the key. I can even get in and drive you around for a while, but I can never put you in the driving seat and drive it for you where you should be. It's got to be done by that person. And we need that guidance sometimes. It's like if we have a plea and ask, whether we're asking ourselves or asking a higher power or a different power or a consciousness field or whatever, often people will come into our life just when we need them. Sometimes we miss that. It could be weeks or years later when we remember that was a significant moment for us. It's all a subjective experience, and what's happening is on this planet, for most of this planetary existence, people have taken this path. This isn't a new path. The Ascension path, the Enlightenment path has been there, available since the beginning of time. Wherever that was, there was no beginning. So on this planet, on Earth, it's been there since, you know, the very first moment. But it was done individually, or perhaps maybe in pairs or in small groups, but it was done individually. This time, it's a global awakening. It's a global ascension. We're going through an ascension enlightenment process all at the same time, all together. And that is what's different this time. And it hasn't been done before, so I'm told, on this planet as we perceive this planet to be. There's so much more to that, but as we perceive Earth to be and what we know of Earth's history, this hasn't been done in quite this way before. And so it isn't just us as humans that are waiting to see what happens. It's the consciousness field itself, because it's making a new neural pathway.
Absolutely.
It's creating a new cosmic website.
Yes, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you were saying there about the separation, about, you know, that this hasn't been done before, and of course, a lot of people are still in that separation, that isolation place, aren't they?
Yes.
And the reason that they're in there, if they could just turn it around and look that they're in it and they've been there for a very good reason, it's because you can't have one without the other. That I keep coming back to that union mystico, the black and the white, the up and the down, the left and the right, the here and the now, the black and the white, you know, whatever. We have to have, and so what we as society, as an evolution, as conscious creators are doing, are moving from that. There was just me. There was just this individual part of me that I wasn't aware that there was more of, and now we're moving from the black to the white, the opposite side. That actually, yes, I was individual. So that's what the realization is. People are completely coming around to that idea, if not swiftly or slowly, or in whatever way they choose. But it's a process, and processes unfold, and creation always creates, and we will never not be able to resist it, or we will not ever be able to respond to it. And it's how we respond to it. Yes. Are we going to allow ourselves to be the conscious, wonderful creators that is happening anyway, that we're a part of, whether really we like it or not? It's just which way. We've got a choice. Are we going to enjoy it or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
And enjoying it is what it's meant to be.
Absolutely, so
It's that process of unfolding, of getting to know, I didn't have it, now I do, or I wasn't part of it and now I am. And that absolute joy and celebration of coming to feel what it feels like, that others, or the other parts of us, also know that too.
I so agree with everything you said,
and that expansion, and it's
absolutely
kind of going out. And
I so agree with all that, and the nine have sort of spoken to me about this.
I keep getting the heart centre, you see. I mean, it's talked about all the time now. It's, you know, there's books being written about it. It's on the internet. It's everywhere. That, you know, this is the time of ascending into this new heart space, this heart centre. And it's all about loving from the heart and the compassion, and that goes with the joining. And I see that so much of that now from my energy perspective. You know, when I'm reading people's energies, or and you know, those of us that have hung on to the old ways and not wanted the change because we're scared, because we don't know what that change means, and I just say focus on your heart. Just, there's a feeling, there's a tingle, isn't there? Some kind of glow, and the more you do it, the more you get used to doing it as well. It's just putting your perspective in a different space, and just allowing that heart centre to expand. And when it's a bit like when you're laughing, you can't actually be unhappy, can you? If you're laughing, there's a state that you're in, there's a feeling that you feel, and that's the heart centre. When you focus on, there's a tingle, there's a glow, and
it's so important because the heart centre creates a connection to everything else.
Absolutely, that is the connection.
And a connection to the DNA, and it's the difference between moving into the positive light aspect of that consciousness field, or the other side of it. It's so interesting.
It's the gateway.
It's the gateway. Absolutely, yeah. Again, words like heart center, gateway are traditionally or are being perceived as New Age, and again, other people can shut away from them. So you would say, well, it's about being positive rather than being negative. It's about having positive thought. It's about feeling good, whatever word you want to use. But it's interesting, when I've tried to, or have explained to people individually, clients, about the light and the dark, the male and the female, the yin and the yang, some people have written to me with some of my videos on polarization, have said, you're talking about duality, Magenta, and we're not in duality anymore, we're in oneness and unity, so why are you making videos about duality? That's gone. Why are you talking about duality? That's keeping us in a polarized place. Really good comments, actually, and they're correct. What I would say there is, what the Nine have said to me, and you were talking about the same thing, you're an individual and you're yourself, and then you kind of learning your way, and you don't really know who you are or where you came from or why you're really here as a human. And the path for the soul is to individualize as a soul. So the way to individualize is to move into duality and understand it, because that is where you take the central place, with everything on the left and everything on the right. So you live in duality. That doesn't mean you have to have arguments between this group and that group. It means you're finding duality within yourself, and you are staying within the middle and balancing it and learning about the duality. And then the duality, when you get to a certain point in your development, you understand that duality creates, or is the next step to, the unity. And the unity becomes part of, comes into that.
As you're talking, I kind of feel it's like, it's the safe space to be, isn't it? That in the middle bit, as you described it, with the left and the right or whatever. There's that middle space is where we're learning, I guess, to focus our attention and be, but at the same time be aware of what's happening on the left and the right. Is that
absolutely? And it's okay. I mean, sometimes people spend their whole lives over here or over here. They haven't found the middle yet. It's okay to move over to the left for a bit, and then you will lose balance, you will lose polarity, but then you might learn something and come back, and then often what will happen is you'll swing over here, and you will draw to yourself experiences from this side. So for example, if you were to awaken spiritually and go straight to unconditional love, light, and instant connection and channeling, but the psychology of you has not perhaps looked at the conspiracy theories, darkness, political control, other people's power agendas. No, we don't want any of that. It's all too dark. I'm up here. This will keep showing itself to you because you haven't gone there. So this is what I mean about taking the light and the dark and the duality of everything. You need to acknowledge all of it.
Absolutely.
And go into all those areas, and sometimes that can be perceived by those up there as someone who's like gone over to the darkness, but
we are all of it, remember.
We're all of it.
So as you say, anything that you avoid you get more of. What you resist you persist.
Absolutely.
So it's not necessarily going there and focusing on it one way or the other, which is the choice, which is why you can be loving or you can be hateful. It's entirely up to you. That's why you're here, because you'll choose each moment. But it's being aware of it, and staying in that heart centre space, as I call it, but which some people say a positive place, or a place of alignment, or as you say, lots of different ways and different expressions depending on who we are and how we wish to express it. And that's the Ascension, is that place wasn't available to us before so easily. It was that it was negative and dark and controlling, or it was airy fairy, wonderful, lovely, dovely, that kind of a bit new agey and a bit sort of the control freak area, isn't it? Another way of putting it. And the ascension is that we realise that there actually is another space, that's all. And that's what we're creating, this other space.
Absolutely.
And from that we will create many more spaces, and there are many more that we haven't even begun to touch on.
And that's so
have already been created.
So important to put it like that, because sometimes the word ascension, that really confuses people. Think, well, you know, you've got one people saying it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. What's the ascension? Why even use the word ascension? Well, it's used because it is ascension is a way that describes a going up, and we are going up in frequency, and that's explains what happened. There was a point where the heart center wasn't so easy to access because we were weighed down. Now, whether that was deliberate or whether it was engineered or supposed to be, it's all of those things.
It's a bit like everything, as I say, you can't jump on your bike without first actually, probably if you're quite tiny, having the stabilisers on, or an animal. Watch any animal when it's born. Nowadays they're getting better at getting up quicker, but once upon a time they weren't. Babies can move their heads around now a lot faster.
That's absolutely
from the minute they're born, but years ago they didn't. So everything has a process. So it's a continual process.
That's so true. My grandson, he was lifting his head up at 2 days old, and I was saying, I can't believe he's lifting his head up, because I didn't know that was happening physically with babies. I knew that these babies were being born and where they were from, and
that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Actually being able to physically move, you know, what they can on all the other levels. But we couldn't do that. Say, I don't know. Let's take 50 years ago, 100 years ago.
It was like swimming in a quagmire, I guess. It was like we had the heart center, and there were beings here that had come from those places of light and incarnated here to bring that light, but everything was dense and heavy, and we were getting caught up in it, and it's kind of like caught us, the karmic, whatever, that denser energy. And like I said, whether it's deliberate, whether it was deliberately created by a group of negative ETs, as many people feel, or whether it was an experiment, it really doesn't matter. I mean, yes, it does. It's good to research, but the point is, let's look at getting out. And now that sort of quagmire of sticky karma is so released. There are still pieces of it, but you can avoid them now. You can swim through. There's a clarity, there's a clearness, there's a lovely feeling as you go forward.
Return to that, as I call it, heart centre space, and just be in it without reacting to it.
Yeah.
We there, and then when we're ready to move on from that place and have the next experience, well, it may be, something that isn't so much to our liking, or maybe it will be something. But whatever it is that we decide and whatever we choose to be from that place, we will then move out of it and experience it. So there'll always be whatever we want there to be, and more.
Absolutely. So with you, you've got this information from your source connection. How does it come to you? Does it come when you are sat down in meditation? Does it come while you're shopping? Does it come while you're asleep? Is it a knowing? Is it a communication? Does it come verbally through sound, through communication, voice, or all those things?
I'm going to say all those things. I'm going to say all of them, because that's, I guess, if I have a problem, it's understanding that, and because I think as a human being, probably most people can relate to this. What I was saying earlier, we want the answers. We want to know, how do we know this? Is it right? We question, don't we? Our brains come in. Our brains are a tool. That's all they are. As I said to someone the other day, once you've finished with that hammer, putting the nail in the wall before you're going to put your picture up, would you continue to walk around with that hammer all day banging at things? No, you wouldn't. You'd put it down because you no longer need it. Yeah. But if you started carrying it around with you all the time, and we do this with things, don't we? I need this, I can't leave the house until I've checked it again, or taken that with me because it's my lucky thing. We attach ourselves to things. So I guess that's one of the main reasons why I'm quite fluid and don't define a lot of how I know things or do things, because I think for me, I don't necessarily need to know the why or how. Yes, but it's kind of a process of trust, really, and that's the space we're in when we're holding this being place that we're learning to be. It's because we're creating it all the time, because we're making it up as we go along, basically, aren't we? There is a lot more, as you say. There's so many other connections and things that we're not aware of. But try and fathom it all out. It's like going into a university course and wanting the whole of the course in 1 week. You would never be able to get it. So it's a building process. So I kind of probably do it all, and it comes in various ways, and sometimes I'm absolutely delighted and amazed at how it's presented, and other times I'm very clear about where it's come from and how I understand it and make sense of it. And other times I'm completely lost and confused like everybody else on this planet. I haven't got a clue.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
a part of me obviously likes that as well.
Yeah.
And then when I want to, I just say, I'll refocus. And really that's what it's all about, isn't it?
And I can see
when we put that attention, it's what we focus on, it's what we want, what we choose to.
And I can see in
experience.
you, as a sensitive, I can feel in you the energy shifts when you access these different parts of you as Jessica, because I know when you're communicating, when you're not particularly logged on, or maybe logged on to that first level of that consciousness field, and you're Jess, and then I see when you're raised and up in that energy, and it's lovely. But what would you say, if I was someone who'd come to you for help and I said, look, Jessica, it's all very well for you, you can do all this, and you're very lucky and you're very blessed, but I can't do it. And a lot of us can't. A lot of us are stuck in we're having an awful time, and when we hear you and Magenta talk about all this love and light and joy, it's so out of reach for us, and it's actually sometimes quite sad listening to you be so happy, because I wish I had that too, but I don't and I can't. And you can't say that everyone's got it, because everyone hasn't. I'm saying this because people say this to me a lot.
Okay, so this is what you hear.
People
have kind of said that to me, and they say, I find it so difficult to, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if I can maintain that. Well, I guess if I, the perspective I could give it to you from is, I look back at my life and I look at some of the experiences that I've had, that there was a time when I didn't know what I was doing, and like everyone in this life, I have my ups and I have my downs, and it was, as I remember it, like that. I'd have good times in my life, then oh my god, I'd come crashing down. Now that could be minutes, days, weeks or months, years of endless problems or good things happening to me, but that's it. And I wanted to understand what was happening for me, what made me go 1 minute being so happy and so joyous, and then the next minute my car breaking down, my partner running out on me and having no money, or whatever it was, silly things. 1 minute I've got a cold, 1 minute I haven't. What was that? So for me, was to start questioning. I questioned, and I looked outside of myself, and the most infuriating things I heard were things like, you must find it within yourself. That drove me crazy. I went on that quest, I read every book, I went on every course, and probably if these people listening haven't, I'm sure at some point they've either thought about it, or they've done something outside of themselves to find it. And all they heard from the gurus and the masters and the Buddhas and the Christ consciousness was, and the channels, you've got to hear it, you've got to find it within, And back then, in my experience, that was so hard, because I never found it within. Even when I meditated, I never found it. I used to come out even more confused and, whatever. So what I say to people now is, we're all on a journey. There will come a time you will find it if you want it, and you have to want it. It's like anything in life, if you really want it, you will find it. And one of the biggest things I say to them is, let go, surrender. Just let go of the fact that you haven't got it, or you don't know it, or you're not sure how you're going to get it. And there's a sense of relief, because we let ourselves off the hook, because we're continually trying to find it, do it, be this joyous person. Don't we just hate the hell out of those people that have got it all? You know, we really do. It's what you're saying. If, you know, I'm sat here happy, I am. I still have problems in my life, not to any extent that I now look at it from a different perspective. And that's it for me. That was the key. It was just surrendering and looking at it from another perspective. And it's all been a learning journey, a learning curve, whatever you want to call it. Now, the quickest way that I have found, I have studied a lot of law of attraction, or when I say studied, no, I haven't studied, I've read a few books and I've watched a few DVDs. Particularly, I'm very much a fan of Abraham, law of attraction, but numerous others. But really the truth of that's come from myself, I would say, because what I say to myself now, does it feel right for me? No matter what it is, whether I pick up a book, whether I hear something, whether I meet someone, whether somebody asks me that question, before I will react to it, I take a moment. That's the going inside, is just giving myself a moment, not to let that brain that take over and be running constantly. I stop and I say, well, does it feel right for me? So it's very emotional now, whereas before it was very up in the head. And that, again, I'm coming back to the same place for me. It's that middle ground, if you like, that heart centre place that we're all moving into. When we move into that, you can just, in fact, don't even move into it, just fall into it, just surrender to it, just relax into it and feel that. Then when you start feeling the love, you can't hate. It's a bit, as I say, you can't be laughing and smiling and feel angry and hatred. So again, it's just a choice, isn't it? Every time something came up, rather than reacting to, that didn't happen for me and it wasn't right and it wasn't fair, and the roller coaster that I used to go on, and then hope that it would be right because I was going on holiday, or, you know, I might be lucky enough to have some money left over at the end of the week to buy myself a magazine or something, or, you know, whatever my circumstances was. I can think about that what I don't want, or I can think about what I do want. So it's the not having, the not loving, the being angry at, or jealous of someone else because they've got it, or I could just say to myself, well, actually, what's the opposite of that I want to feel and I want to think? And for me it would be, it feels nicer to think of loving thoughts. If you're not in that place, you can't be. You have to acknowledge where you're at, but that's the surrender. It's just the surrender that I hate that person, or I haven't got what I want, and then you can start to build on that love. And you can start to understand what it feels like to feel good. And then there come a point in your life and you won't compromise, you won't want to think the negative things and be nasty to people or be jealous of anyone, or horrible to yourself, and, you know, beat yourself up for not being good enough or not confident enough, because you will suddenly start to think, I don't like that, and I like that so much, or I don't like that much that I'm not going to do that anymore. And it becomes a conscious decision and a conscious choice. So that's what I say to people, you choose. That's the simple, I've gone about it in a very long-winded way, but the simple thing is you choose. You either like it or you don't, and it's up to you. And it doesn't have to be hard. Just accept it, accept everything about yourself and others, and then from that place choose what you do want and what you do want to accept.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Jess, and I really hope that does help people listening to us chat now who are feeling that way, because I have had, you know, comments where it's okay for you but I can't do it. So I really hope that does help. And I would add, with the wanting, you do have to want it, but I think it's learning the difference between wanting something and clinging onto it with desperation, need and frustration because you haven't got it. When that happens, you do block that. Resistance. And you stay, it won't happen, and you stay in that place and you get more and more. It's letting go, like you say, accepting that it isn't there, whatever it may be. It could be that you can't feel that you can function in a world that is completely controlled by a dark cabal or an Illuminati group. A lot of people are there. They feel like everything you're saying and everything Magenta's saying is irrelevant and nonsense when we're completely controlled and there's no way out. Even that mindset can be freed when you tune into the consciousness field. When you tune into the consciousness field through meditation, through the acceptance and the letting go and all the things that you just said, you will find your answers. you will find your answers regarding that global agenda and control, or your own health, or your own worries, or your own insecurities. And you mentioned the emotion. It's also about learning the difference between an emotional reaction that you don't have any control over and an emotional energy that is communicating with your brain and your consciousness. So for example, you can feel an emotion, but you then tune in on that emotion, which is what you said, and work out where is it coming from, why is it there. A lot of people feel an emotion and don't really even acknowledge that they felt it, they will simply act on it.
That's what I mean, that immediately we start acting on things, but it is just taking that one small step back and just
taking time to feel your own
absolutely.
Body, your own emotional body, your own energy
scary
body.
For a lot of people, and that's the fear.
That's the way. That's the going within.
What I've found myself and what I've seen with so many people that I've worked with over the years is that we fear so much that it's not actually the outcome at all, because we can't see the outcome. It is just so stuck in that place of, and you know what I say is called meet that fear, greet it, say come on, bring it on, I'm actually going to feel you. I'm just going to feel you, I'm just going to accept I'm feeling this right now. And then what happens is it's never as bad as you think it is. In fact, as I say, the blockage is the actual fear of the fear. And that can be really difficult, can't it? But I say to people, just do this. Just put your hands on your heart centre and go, I'm feeling what I'm feeling right now, whatever it is. So if you're feeling fear or anger or resentment, or that there's dark forces out to get you, whatever it is, feel it. And just sit with it just for a minute, and it will feel scary, because you're feeling an emotion that you've been trying to block, but you've been using so much energy trying to block that feeling, that is the tension, that's the stress, that's the disorder in your body, that's the disorder in your mind and your thoughts, and then creates the circumstances around you. Just acknowledge it. If you do it, just give it a go, and just hold it there. And take a nice deep breath and say, it's okay. You'll find very quickly that fear, you won't feel like that anymore. It will be different, it will be lighter. And the more you do it, the more you keep doing it. So it's possible for all of us. I know people say, you said to me something before about people say, oh, it's all right for you, you can't do it, and they can't do it. And something about not being left behind. Nobody's going to be left behind.
Yeah, that's right. Someone said, I agree with everything you're saying. It was one of the last videos I put up. But you're saying no one is going to be left behind. It's quite important to get that out, I think. So thanks for bringing that out. It's a good comment. I'm pleased when people write comments like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he said, people are going to be left behind. You know, they are.
It depends what you define by being left behind, because we are all one. Whether we're consciously understanding of that or in agreements with it is actually irrelevant.
He actually said, sorry to interrupt you, he actually said a choice has to be made.
Yes, but that's what we were saying.
Yeah.
You've got a choice. Yeah. And that is exactly it. I mean, you know, I do channel things, and the other day you said that to me, and then I got channeled all the information regarding that. I will save all of this for some other time, some other conversation, I feel. But basically it was like that, and because it's what we're saying today, it is a choice. Do you want to believe that and to go that route and know that you're going to be one that isn't going to be saved? Or would you like to look at it perhaps from a different perspective, which is what I suggest? I kind of almost pop out of myself, and maybe even, you know, with your mind, because your mind's a brilliant tool, that's what they're designed for. Jump out here now, jump over there, have a cut. You don't have to be visual, you don't have to be a feely person, but you can jump over there and see it from another perspective. So it's me sat over here now, whether you see it clearly or not is irrelevant, but you've got a concept of that. And I can think, well, do I like that? If I look at myself, do I want to be one of those that gets left behind? That is a choice. Seeing it from a different perspective, how would Jessica look right now? Well, probably pretty sad, miserable. Yeah, if I'm looking at myself,
so you're talking to your quantum selves, your multidimensional
absolutely,
self.
because we are. so I've got a choice. I'll come back to myself now, and what I'm choosing right now is, I like the feeling of love. I like the feeling of joy. I like the feeling of happiness, and that I have cooperative people in my life, loving people that have joyous experiences. So for me, I'm going to stick with that. Those people that don't know how, we've already said today, it is a choice. And make slow steps, just one step, just acknowledge how you feel about things, just make a conscious choice that you're not gonna, your brain is a tool, not ruling you.
And the consciousness field will respond to the choice you made. Even if you can't feel that or see evidence of it at first, you sit there and say, okay, I've listened to Jess and Magenta today, I choose to go with this energy. I choose to experience love and joy and bliss. I choose to experience everything I've ever wanted. I choose to experience abundance. And then don't say and give up a week later and think, it didn't happen.
And it doesn't happen overnight. It is a process, like we've been saying. Everything is a process. You can't
have the trust, have the faith, and it's all down to, I feel, the law of attraction, which again is words that can, turn some people off. Oh, law of attraction, and same old new age thing. Change that to communicating with the consciousness field, or rearranging the pathways within our own brain, or creating what we want, or whatever word you want to use. It's from what the nines say to me, it is the way it is. There is no label for it. They call it the law of magnetic attraction, actually. They add the word magnetic in quite deliberately, because
that's the science.
We're a magnet.
We're in a science. It is. Everything's magnetic. We are energy. So absolutely.
So every choice you make, which is important, because your choice then changes the timelines. You have an infinite amount. And I have clients actually who get a bit lost with this sometimes when they're asking about their own personal path, and one minute I'll say something for them, and something I'll say something completely different because I've switched to another timeline. We have individually an infinite amount of timelines in front of us, and we have an infinite amount of quantum selves that are experiencing these infinite timelines, and as a global oneness, the whole of humanity on Earth, and Earth itself as an entity, has an infinite amount of timelines and an infinite amount of quantum selves, and there are an infinite amount of Earths, and the entire space-time sector around us, and our galaxy and our universe and our every little it's all quantum, everything. So the possibility is absolutely, there's just no number on it. Anything you want, you can create it. And okay, Earth is quite a dense, or has been a dense energy planet, so the law of magnetic attraction hasn't necessarily been an easy path over the years. There have been some adepts and some psychics and some masters and prophets that have been able to work with it, and they've found success because they've found a way through. But now we're not such a dense planet anymore, so it's easier for us.
That what you were saying about how I look at ascended masters, people that walk this earth. We've already named Jesus, and lots and lots of wonderful people, isn't there? Mother Mary, all sorts of people. Because you asked me a question earlier on, how come, people say, well, how come you can do it and I can't? I couldn't do this in the way that I'm doing it, in the same way that those people we've just talked about that walk this earth, the only reason that they have experienced it, and we're all on that path, the whole point of it is that there will come a time when you will be, and it can happen in a blink of an eye. And that's what you're saying about there's so many pathways and so many choices. It's just, do you want to? Not everybody wants to. Not that everybody doesn't want to, but for example, how we work, not everybody will want to do what we do.
No.
And the other part of that was, how do we do it? Well, it's because of this intention that we want to, this path that we're opening up to, and being able to say, well, this timeline, this thing, just put your attention there. Think bigger. Because we're so linear here, or we have been, and that's where I was at. It's just very linear, thinking that it would come possibly through one avenue or another, maybe, hopefully, but actually think bigger.
Yeah.
Think that what you've just said, Magenta, if people start thinking, well, yeah, what you said there makes sense. There are more avenues and then more timelines and different galaxies, and just think bigger. And then put your attention on, oh, that potentially could exist. Whether you believe it or not is irrelevant, but just your opening and your potential to it will put you there.
Yeah.
And really, that's what I do. I put my attention there. That's what you do. We put our attention there. But we've learned to do that because we've learned to trust that there is more.
It's a learning. It's not something I feel, I think with me, and I think with many people that I've spoken to have had a similar journey actually. As a child, it seemed so much freer. I did speak to other aspects of me, imaginary friends or whatever, and then you kind of hit puberty and you kind of grow up and you're expected to get good grades and get a job, and then you kind of shut it down a bit, and that's when for me personally, and I know it's the case with others, I shut that down a little bit, and then I had to learn again. But with the quantum aspect, if you can't find a way to have what you want in this reality, or even to awaken or to experience the things that you see others experiencing, and basically the happiness and the joy that so many people in this energy are exuding when they're interviewed, you know, every person I've seen in this movement is laughing, and it's got such a humour. If the world was really so bad and we were heading for such a dreadful climactic conclusion because of all this engineered control, why are the people like us laughing and so happy? Because we've seen a future that's so different and we know we're heading for it. That's why. And so visualise the aspect of yourself. It's just a simple exercise with your imagination, and like you say, whether you believe it's true or not, it really is irrelevant, because the consciousness field will respond to it. So what I do is I speak to Magenta in the future, or Magenta in the past if I perhaps need to adjust something or some healing, or I'll speak to Magenta sideways, you know, Magenta who got up today and who didn't come and see you today but went somewhere else. Well, where did she go? And you know, let's talk to her. So people can do that. They can literally sit down and say, okay, I'll try it. You know, I'll speak to myself 1 week in the future. Now the vision you instantly see might be you in the future, really fed up, nothing's happened, I tried to do the law of magnetic attraction, it didn't work. So change it. There's another one behind that's saying, I actually did it and it worked, and guess what? I have been offered a job, and I have got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and I have got some money, or whatever it is you're manifesting. See it and know. Just take it as an acting exercise. Take it as going to a drama class. Sit there and know it's available. If it's available, then it's real. And a lot of people say it's just my imagination, and my answer would be, from the teachings I've had from the Nine, yes, absolutely, it is your imagination. Great. Creative. Because your imagination is the most wonderful tool that you can have, and we have been shut down on that unbelievable truth. The biggest lie that we have been told as kids is, it's just your imagination. Absolutely. Stop daydreaming and get on with the real world. So you can't believe anything you see.
So aren't we in the most wondrous times?
Absolutely.
That now we know this. We're talking about it. Everybody's talking about it, or will be. And so, you know, you were saying there about your grandson being born and coming into this world. So he's going to be told, use your imagination, not stop using your imagination.
Well, I hope so. When Nana's around, he certainly will be. I mean,
it's
obviously,
a wave.
Mums are definitely more aware now than when we were younger, because of the internet and YouTube and, you know, Facebook and videos and the alternative is now kind of mainstream. You know, I watched a programme yesterday.
It's just the energy there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the energy that's coming into those children and what they're calling for themselves. That doesn't mean that there isn't still work to be done on this planet. Yeah, we've got third world countries, we've got children that are without food, we have things going on that we don't want, and it isn't going to happen overnight, but we are all working on it. And this brings me to another big question I get asked, and that is, why do you sit there talking? Why don't you walk the talk? What is it that you are doing to help? Why don't you actually get on a plane, Magenta, and go to these third world countries and actually help feed these orphans and these starving children? Or why don't you actually do something instead of sitting there talking in your expensive rich home? I get this all the time.
Okay.
And my response to that would be, we are. And it isn't just me and you. There is a massive network of individuals
absolutely.
who are on this right now. I don't even know most of them personally. It's a telepathic connection. I know that they're there. I've known that they've been there for a long time. I can feel them and I can see them. I could even tell you what they look like and their names, but I haven't met. I've met some of them, I haven't met all of them, and I know that they're working on this in their way.
Absolutely.
It's done through telepathic intention and communication with the consciousness field. Sorry,
I really want to say something because I might forget this, but it's really important. It's like, it is just, I can summarise this so quickly. It's like, this is my job. What we do is talk to people in the way that we're doing it. We are intuitive readers, spiritual consultants, whatever we want to call ourselves, okay? I don't want to be a catering assistant and serve beautiful food to people that will nourish them and help them to grow. I've chosen not to be a hairdresser this lifetime who counsels people while they cut their hair.
But wonderful for those that do. But good on them for doing it. But what I'm saying is, but yes, we're all choosing. We're back to choosing. Those hairdressers, they do an amazing job. Not only do they make us look good and feel good, they're healers.
So
hairdressers are healers.
Everyone's a healer.
Nail technicians, if you want your nails done, or
doesn't matter what
whatever you have done, fashion or driving instructors are teaching. Everyone is doing a spiritual job. It's very difficult though, Jess, to bring this across in videos.
Maybe, I mean, I don't know who you've had this from or those people, but my response to them would be that then you're not doing what you love.
I don't always have the time to respond individually, and it will come from emails or messages on Skype or Facebook or here on YouTube. But sometimes I respond. I mean, once I read on a forum and I was like, do I create an account and like put a little reply? And like, no, because how can you really say these things?
Well, you can't respond to everything, but this is why we're doing this to get this out there. But people, if you're not happy in your jobs, and most of us weren't. I mean, don't think I've always been doing this, because for all of you that don't know, I've only been doing it for the last 4 years in this capacity. And prior to that, I was following a life of what I was. How do we say this? When I had no choice, when my parents said you could either go into a shop or an office, and I wasn't allowed to do. I mean, I'm afraid I'm that age, guys. I wasn't allowed to go into a factory. Okay, those were the rules. As it happened, I did go into a factory at one point, but I'm a bit of a rebel. But yeah, basically, I followed that path. And it took me many years. I won't disclose my age because I am getting older. I love it.
Cellular regeneration will sort all of that out.
But yeah, absolutely. But really, what I'm trying to say is it's taken me a long time, and I had to stop. And that thing we were talking about earlier, fear, that emotional place of I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm not happy. 4 years ago, I took what I classify as a huge risk, and it was, and gave up everything basically. The good job that I had, I did have a good job. I was good at what I did. It was office based, and took it. I was so unhappy before. So all of those that are asking that question, this is what I'm responding with it. You've got to take the first step. First of all, and they say how. Identify what makes you feel good. What do you like doing, and then trust that. Everything else will show its way to.
I feel also in this movement, this particular arena of work where you are working strongly with energy and teaching about the planetary shift in whatever way that may be. Personally, from my experience and from experiencing the paths of others, you need to be willing to give of yourself and your ability and whatever it is you do for free without any need for at first.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you here, Magenta. We're living in a physical world. Nothing has to be give it away free if it doesn't feel right, because if it does, and I've seen movement after movement of spiritual people for years, and they're still trapped in that. I mean, this is another topic, isn't it? Again, people are trapped in that. The bottom line is lack of self-esteem and worthiness.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's not what it's about. And I'm not disputing what you're saying about
but I mean, if you
giving
want to
free. But
reach
it's
a
a succession of, if you're doing what you love, and identify that. I like reading books, I like going for walks. How am I going to find a job doing that? You'll find it. Just keep asking yourself and keep doing what you like. And then there will be something that you will be presented to you, those synchronicities you were talking about earlier, those being in the right place at the right time. That's how it all corresponds, and then you're flowing in the right direction. You keep trusting, and that will come to you, and then you'll find it. But anyway, again, that is another long subject that
it is another whole subject.
But money, we live in
we
still
do. And
still,
it's
I
part
say still,
of that abundance and part
because
of that.
There's a lot of changes, and that again, I'm sure we'll talk about this in another time. But it's we have to value ourselves, and when we're being paid for something, we feel good about it.
In this movement, it doesn't always happen that you start to make money when you go into a situation where you are reaching larger groups of people, not individual client work, but large groups of people. As you sort of work this way, it seems to be kind of like a synchronistic led path, and you are giving of the work from your heart without really any asking of comeback in any way.
I do my work for free every day because I'm loving it.
And it's good to say
when
that.
People say, I'm doing what I love, and I'm being paid for it, and it's like now I know what they mean, because that's what I'm trying to say is you've got to find what you love. Money is irrelevant. You're absolutely right on that sense.
But a lot of people think that we do this for money, but
in the early days you have to value yourself.
You have to value
and
yourself.
If money's not involved in it, and unfortunately money is a value.
Money is,
It's the way society is. It's the way
if you're going to do that as your job. Like I said, I read on a forum, somebody had written, it's all very well for Magenta to sort of present all these videos and say all these things, but she's not out there on the streets suffering like some of us. She's driving around in her flashy, expensive car. And me and my brother were having such a giggle because I was driving an old banger. It was falling apart. It failed the MOT. I had no money to get it done. And I'm sat there, if they only knew what I drove. So what I'm getting at here is, it isn't something that lands in your lap. You don't sit there and think, right, tell you what, I'm going to release a video. How much money will I make from that then? It isn't about that. It's about giving of your heart, giving freely and willingly, giving that message. But as you're saying, so I'm agreeing with you here, we're in a physical world, and the way that we use currency is money. So it comes to a point where you can give and give and give freely within this movement, but there comes to a point where the universal connection, that consciousness field, will lead you into, if you haven't made the choice yourself, I'm going to earn money from this, which I didn't, you will find you're in a situation where you can't go forward anymore with your physical life, because you've got rent and you've got bills and you've got children and you've got this, that. So you have to think, right, do I stay in this movement and charge money or find a way to earn money, or do I quit this movement and go do something else? And obviously once you're in that movement, you can try and quit, but you'll always come back.
What I was going to say is that those people that ask that question and see you as, whatever, think about that, people, because that's just a perception. You don't actually know, and as Magenta's just said, her reality wasn't like that at all. No. But what you also then followed on and said, which I thought was beautiful, was that you have to get to a place of. There's something you said, and I really cottoned on that. I really want to get this back, because there was something very beautiful in there. That it's about. I think I've lost it actually. I might have to come back to that. A place of I don't know if I can get it back. It was I'm always about 50 million paces ahead of what I want to say, and that's why sometimes you see me going like that. Yeah. I have to speak sometimes. I lost it anyway. It'll come back sometime.
It's a good though, because what I would say is obviously what I'm getting at here is the Nine have told me that there are a lot more people now who have been with this energy for many years, or who may have fast-tracked with this energy quite recently, that will be starting to come up and show themselves with their creations. As we speak now, there are people listening to our video who've been thinking, I might do some videos.
It's about getting out of that trap, basically. Yeah. Because it is a trap where you have to receive before you can give, as far as I'm concerned. Everyone says you've got to give before you can receive. But I actually think it's the other way around. You've got to be able to receive, because if you can't, you're cheating yourself and everybody else.
I've told you about Ricer, who I've done the video, the Blog Talk radio shows with, and he created the Gold Ring game of enlightenment and abundance.
Oh, right. Okay.
This is what he has said.
Absolutely.
And when he first said it to
me,
a trap. I remember thinking, you have to receive before you can give. And it was a while before I processed that. So yes, I understand.
Otherwise, it's a trap. You're not feeling worthy. It's those lower areas, emotions that we were saying.
Sorry.
I want to know about this gold ring. I don't know what it is.
David Wilcott, the gold ring. Abraham.
Okay, right.
Esther Hicks.
All right, well,
I don't mind.
We're plugging into all of these things.
Great energies here, and anyone who's researching, go look these people up.
That's what I mean about us all knowing the same thing. Anyone I said we all know the same thing. Yeah. We do, and we can tap into it. Anyone can tap into it. You do know. And a lot of the fear is that somebody else is going to create it before me and get it out there before me, and that's another trap. I used to have that one big time. I was going to do that, but someone else has done it, so I won't now. As if
it's already been done. You get told it's already been done. Yes, of course it has. It's all been done.
Do you know why that pushes you? That puts you back into a low self-esteem, not feeling good enough.
The other one is why go into this industry? It's an overcrowded profession.
All I got to do is laugh about that.
I really hope my mother doesn't watch this, but I actually have been getting that from her. It's an overcrowded profession: the writing profession, the acting profession, the music industry.
People,
media.
There's enough for everyone. There always will be, because you're all of it.
Yeah.
You
there is no limitations in any industry. So anyone who's thinking of going into a job that's potentially overcrowded, there's a space for you, because everyone has a unique template that they can create. Everyone has a story to tell, and when they find that connection with the consciousness field, they will take their place and it will work for them. This is an abundant planet. There's enough there for all of us, and I know that does sound sometimes too new age when you look at these people who are in a state of scarcity. We are doing something to change this every single day.
I'd say the abundance is within you. What's that Star Trek saying?
Crazy
what's that Star Trek saying? The luck, was it? What do they do?
The force.
The force is within you.
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
The abundance is within you, people.
The force is within you. Exactly.
No, it's the abundance is within you. Get used to it.
Yeah. You crazy new age woman.
I love being me.
This is what makes me laugh as well, when people go on about the New Age movement and the light worker community, and they're all a bit... It isn't... Okay, it's a label and it explains a section of society, but I see this becoming mainstream, and not becoming. It's in every walk of life. Somebody said to me once, your clients are a specific group of people. And I said, no, they're not. They're everybody. He said, no, they're a specific group of people who are on an ascension path. Yes, but everyone's on an ascension path.
Yeah.
So,
very true, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Wow. Happy ascending, everyone.
Yeah,
happy ascending.
I hope people like our little YouTube chats. I kind of forget it's a bit like reality show, isn't it? Big Brother, forget the cameras there and just talk. And while we're on that subject, I'm probably a bit sort of worn out of energy, but one thing we've both been saying to each other, and this doesn't have to go on camera, we can put it on or whatever we choose, that you channel and communicate with that energy and talk afterwards as Jessica with the different sort of raising of the levels, but have not necessarily on a frequent, frequently. Frequently. What am I saying?
I don't know.
You have not frequently channeled, as in going into a space and doing the channeling thing.
Not for some time then.
And I don't either, other than it's through automatic writing usually. So I get into the zone, and I do actually enter a light trance because I can feel the 9 with me. And so I say the 9, it is that consciousness field and the personification of that aspect. Yeah. And then I hear them speak.
It's that aspect of you that is the 9 that you're
absolutely
through.
Aspect of me, always. It's never outside of you. That's another question. Why are you speaking to beings outside of you? It's all within. I'm like, yes, it's all within.
And then part of you up there that's agreed that's the way you do it.
People will say, why are you saying it's all within? Aren't you connecting to the ETs? It's like, it's hard to get it all out there. So yes, it's both. So I do it through automatic writing.
It's confusing for people. I can totally understand.
It is.
It's confusing for me. So I'm with them on it. It's really confusing.
Absolutely. And the 9 say confusion leads to clarity, and it's like you go through this confusion and you break through it and come to a clear space, and then there's something else that you unravel and come to a clear space. It's good to get it out there though, because obviously as I've presented my work as channeled work from that consciousness field space from the 9, I haven't always been able to address certain questions that come to me, and I started off being able to address emails, most emails I was getting, and then I was thinking I haven't got enough hours in the day to answer all these emails, so I couldn't do it anymore. So it is good to get this out, and I know that there's a section of people that would be listening to us now who completely resonate and understand, and they wouldn't really need to hear this. It doesn't really need to be said for them, so they're probably thinking, no need to say it, Magenta Jess, we understand. Well, that's great, and I know that you do, but there are others who don't, and who have been confused with the way that not just I present my work, but how many of the channels present their work.
Yeah, everyone. Again, we just, I come back to the same thing, and I'll repeat myself over and over again. It's just another perspective, that's all.
That's right. And that's what the 9 teach, through perspective. That is actually their main teaching, is perspective. If you cannot shift perspective, then you aren't able to become multidimensional, because you are linear. Not that linear is a bad thing. Linear is a great thing, because what linear does is it puts you straight into separation and allows you to then find the unity in the multidimensional. That gives you the path. It's like we leave the collective and we individualise, and as we individualise, this is another thing, people think the collective is a bit like the Borg. You were talking of Star Trek, the Borg, which is assimilating. Well, yes, it is, but it isn't assimilating and losing your individuality. The Borg lose their individuality and become absolutely one. So it's a control collective structure, which is part of an agenda that's going on this planet. So are there Borg consciousness stuff? Yes. But the collective that I'm talking about is the collective that is you join and become one with, but you individualize first. You leave the collective as you incarnate in these lifetimes. You individualize in the lifetime that you have blueprinted to individualize in, or in a series of lifetimes. And when you come back to the collective, you are more individual, and you have more of an identity than you ever have, and you have more clarity than you ever have, and you have the support and the backup and the family of the collective, but you're still individual and you never lose that. So that's the opposite, I guess, to the Borg consciousness. That is the consciousness of individualization and unity as one, and that's the Ascension. It's good, isn't it? Thank you very much for listening to us today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you got something from our talk today, and it has created a realization in you or some kind of activation or awakening, that is fantastic. Write to me, tell me about it. I read my emails. Unfortunately, I can't respond to all of them individually, but I do read them, so please do write.
Love and blessings.